Chapter 16. Destiny Calling.
Mission log, Sol 5212. AOS, undefined. Message received, source, undefined.
Opportunity stopped abruptly and listened. The strange signal seemed familiar somehow, but it had been way too garbled to make out properly. Scanning the area with his panoramic and navigational cameras, there was little in the way of landmarks to be made out. On all sides, Opportunity was surrounded by only trees and darkness. He noticed a small drop of water hitting his solar panel and checked his status. The Everfree forest seemed to be in a perpetual gloom, and with the threatening, low-hanging clouds, there was little difference between day and night. Only the mission clock proved that Oppie had been driving for almost a full day.
Status. My battery is low, and it's getting dark.
Between the setting sun and the gathering storm, there was little point in driving on. This was as good a place as any Opportunity could think of. Remote, completely off the beaten path, even for the Everfree, and unlikely to be discovered by chance. Still, it would not do to have anyone or anything come across the dangerous material by accident, should the most unlikely scenario occur. Oppie had been doing the calculations while driving. The Martian soil would be the least problematic part. Rain would wash it out and dilute it to harmless levels over time, getting rid of what little radiation clung to it, and the bacteria and plants of the Everfree would break down the perchlorate salts. Opportunity looked at his arm and thrust it into the earth, beginning to dig a trench. The actual radiation sources would be more of a problem, but he'd come up with a plan. The gamma ray source that had made Starlight sick was only dangerous when in extremely close contact to living organisms for an extended time. He didn't know who to thank for the decision to use that particular isotope of cobalt in the instrument, but he would be eternally grateful. The relatively short half-life, coupled with 15 years of degradation, had taken the metal from deadly within hours to a manageable risk. For Starlight, it had meant the difference between death and just enough time to save her. Shielding the source with a container made from the scrap metal and buried under a few inches of Everfree soil, it wouldn't be a danger to any creature until it had naturally broken down. Rain began to fall, making the brown dirt soft and loamy. Opportunity continued to dig.
AOS, undefined. Message received, source, undefined.
Still with no way to make out the strange signal, Opportunity continued to dig, and the rain began to fall, coming faster and with heavier drops as time went on. The curium alpha particle source from the APXS was another matter. It remained in Oppie's instrument arm for the moment. Thankfully, alpha particles, by their very nature, were only dangerous at very close range, rarely traveling farther than a few centimeters at best, and easily shielded. The same handling as the cobalt would suffice. While it would take longer to decay into harmless materials, the shielding in the soil would hopefully prevent it from harming anyone. Opportunity continued to dig as the rain came down in sheets and a lightning bolt illuminated the sizable hole he'd made. The rover unloaded the bin and opened the lid, putting the arm the ponies had so lovingly rebuilt to good use as it made a container for Starlight's necklace from the scrap metal. He took one last look at the gift he'd given his friend, the gift which he'd hoped to show her how much he'd cared, the gift that had almost killed her. This time, what little light reflected off of it had a sinister sheen to it in Oppie's eyes. Nonetheless, it had meant a great deal to both him and Starlight. So he set it down slowly, almost reverently, into its little makeshift coffin, which was then covered up and placed in the hole along with the rest of the scrap metal.
AOS undefined. Message received. Source undefined.
Sir, calling. Opportunity.
With the most delicate operations done, Opportunity resolutely picked out an ancient, sturdy-looking oak tree in the vicinity and drove up to it. He raised his arm and slammed it against the trunk. The hollow sound it made was less than satisfying. A couple more hits made for no better results. The rover drove a few meters back, extended the arm out at his side, gritted his metaphorical teeth, and gunned it, charging the tree like a medieval knight in a jousting match. The sound of the impact was much more crunchy this time as the arm impacted and spun Oppie in a half-circle around the tree. But as he looked down, the arm was apparently no worse for wear. In an irrational moment, the rover cursed the perfectionist Alicord for building such a sturdy limb replacement out of the kindness of her heart. Oppie backed up double the distance from the tree, drove forward at top speed, and tried again. This time, joints and thin metal sheets creaked in protest, the sounds echoing throughout the lonely forest. Again and again, Opportunity threw himself at speed against the immovable tree trunk, his arm hanging limply at his side, more connections coming apart with every blow. One more time, and this time, the impact tore Oppie's arm clean off its hinges. A howl in the distance seemed to respond to the sound of shearing metal. He looked at the severed arm and positioned himself, pushing it forward and towards the hole he'd just made. He would have liked to bury the arm as gently as the necklace instead of just dropping it unceremoniously amidst the scrap. Twilight Sparkle had made it for him, after all. He would have to be content with the knowledge that she, Starlight, and every pony else would be safe from the danger contained within. The rover drove against the min that held the Martian soil, tipping it over to spill its contents into the hole. Then, he dropped the bin itself into the opening for good measure. He wouldn't take any chances. Oppie went around the graveside in several spots, locking down 5 of his 6 wheels and spinning the final one to shovel dirt back into it. Another howl could be heard in the distance, while rain continued to pour, and the occasional combination of thunder and lightning struck, the interval between them getting shorter. The heart of the storm was getting closer. Amidst the cacophony of sounds that remained unheard by the rover, Oppie drove over the backfilled hole several times to compact the dirt. Hopefully it would be enough to keep everyone safe. Suddenly, he stopped, finally locking onto that annoying signal that had tried to distract him the entire time while he'd been trying to save Starlight's life.
AOS DSN. Message received. Source MERC via MSL.
Serendipity calling Opportunity. Come in, Opportunity.
Message received. Source MERC via MSL.
Can you hear me, brother?
Message sent. Sister?
Shocked into immobility at the unexpected call from home, Oppie stood still to listen, amidst the rain, the thunder, and the approaching howls.
We're here!
Sunset called, almost stumbling as she walked into Starlight Glimmer's bedroom, followed shortly by the human-turned unicorn Twilight Sparkle, and kept from falling over by Sunburst, who was at her side. Twilight's attitude was no nonsense.
Where is it?
Right here, Spike answered, pointing at the jewelry box that had been moved to the furthest corner of the room. Twilight unholstered a strange machine that was emitting quiet clacking noises and began waving a part of it over the container, quietly berating herself under her breath.
Stupid. Should have realized it sooner.
Meanwhile, Sunset turned her attention to Starlight, who was sitting upright in her bed. She was glad to see the unicorn looking alert and awake, and a quick scanning spell confirmed that her thaumic channels were clear and her reservoir slowly starting to fill up on ambient magic. Full recovery would take time, but there was clear and immediate improvement. Trixie sat silently at her bedside, holding a cup of tea at the ready for her.
We came as soon as we got Spike's message in the journal,
Sunset said.
Are you alright? How are you feeling? Said the pony who almost passed out twice on the way here.
Sunburst grumbled, always seemingly hovering within Hoof's reach to catch her if need be.
Your own reservoir still needs time to recover. I'm fine,
Starlight insisted, even though that statement was punctuated by a series of coughs.
More importantly, we need to find Oppie. Let's make sure you're okay first,
Sunset replied.
Twilight, are we sure we've confirmed the reason? Yes,
Sci-Fi replied in disgust.
It's radiation, all right. I should have figured it out so much sooner. Are we safe? I'll go through the workshop with the Geiger counter to check all the boxes, but yes.
Twilight confirmed.
It looks like Oppie removed all of the actual sources of radiation from the castle. What's left is probably just residual. I'm going to make sure it's all collected and decontaminated to be on the safe side. I'll coordinate with my counterpart as soon as she gets back here with Star Swirl and Mage Meadowbrook.
Sunset nodded and looked at the laptop that had been moved to Starlight's room. It was still displaying Oppie's final message.
So, you really did figure it out.
From the corner of her eye, Sunset caught Trixie glancing at the message as well, fixating on one line in particular. Trixie Wright. All opportunity fault. When Trixie noticed Sunset looking at her, she averted her eyes, but said nothing.
We have to get him,
Starlight said, struggling to get out of bed.
He's all alone out there. Easy there,
Sunset said.
You're still weak. You can't go out there. We don't even know where to look.
I do, a gruff voice said from the door. The ponies turned to see a donkey standing in the frame, next to Spike and Maud Pie. I'd bet my adventuring hat that he took off for the Everfree Forest, Cranky said. Spike stepped forward.
You're in no condition to go looking for him, Starlight. Not in the Everfree. We'll go, all of us. We're Oppie's friends too, you know?
That's right, Cranky said. We're all just as motivated to find the kid. You rest up and leave this to us. Maud simply nodded her assent to what had been said. Starlight shook her head.
You need me. Twilight isn't here, and you need a unicorn with you so you can operate the binary sparkle network and find the trail. I'm sure somebody else can do it, Spike argued. You're not the only one who knows how the BSN works, right? Somebody else can come along to help us find Oppie.
Trixie met his eyes. The blue magician's lips parted, and then she looked away in shame without saying anything.
I'll do it,
Sunset offered, taking a step forward and almost stumbling again.
I've got a good enough grasp of the system.
No, you won't, Sunburst insisted, catching her and setting her down on her haunches before pointing towards Starlight.
You're as bad as her. I can handle it, so I'll go. But no buts, she said with finality. You magic geniuses are all the same. Because everything always comes easy to you, you're totally incapable of seeing your own limits. Well, I'm someone who's been painfully aware of his own limitations his entire life. So I know this is something I can do while the two of you get the rest you need.
Sunset blinked and opened her mouth to respond. But when she saw the look in Sunburst's eyes, he resolutely took possession of the laptop. She simply said,
All right. I'm not going to argue this any further. I'm going in your place, and that's... Wait, what? What did you say? I said you're right.
She looked up at him with a rueful smile, while remaining seated.
We just slow you down. I'll stay here and help Mage Meadowbrook administer the antibiotics and radiation cures we brought from the human world. No!
Everyone turned to look at the growling Starlight, her refusal punctuated by the sound of thunder in the distance.
I'm coming. Don't you dare leave me out of this! It would be better if you stayed here to rest,
Maud said in a factual tone.
Well, I don't care!
Starlight was getting worked up now, getting ready to leave the bed and join the search party despite her still weakened state that was obvious to everyone but her.
I'm the best chance you have at finding the trail. You don't even have enough magic left to operate the BSN, much less maintain a spell to search for Oppie,
Sunburst reasoned. But Starlight wouldn't have it, no matter how much sense his argument made. She shook her head.
I'm not staying behind. I'll find a way. I'm coming with you.
There was a look of utter betrayal on her face as she looked at Trixie, whose horn was still glowing. Starlight sunk back down onto the bed. Her eyelids fell despite her struggle to keep them open, and her breathing became slow and regular after a few moments. Nobody said anything, but all eyes were on Trixie while she wordlessly tucked her friend back into her bedsheets and rested her hoof for a moment on Sunset's shoulder. Sunset understood and silently took Trixie's spot at Starlight's side to watch over her recovery with a nod.
What?
The magician asked, finally addressing the rest of the crowd as she levitated her hat and cape over herself to ward herself against the coming chill of the stormy night.
Star Swirl the Bearded isn't the only pony capable of knocking someone out for their own good, you know. Now let's go find our friend.
Spike gave her a small smile and put his claw out. One by one, Maud, Cranky, Sunburst, and finally Trixie piled their hooves on top of the dragon claw.
For Oppie, and for Starlight.
Message received. Source MERC via Akatsuki. Command status update. Message received. Source MERC via Voyager 1. Command send position. Message received. Source MERC via Juno. Command transfer logs. Message received. Source MERC via Maven. Command upload science data.
Opportunity's sister turned out to be quite the little chatterbox. After the first 16-minute round-trip message to Earth, she was now bombarding her wayward brother with a number of requests all at once, all repeated ad nauseum by every craft which had managed to hone in on the correct trajectory. Given different circumstances, Oppie would have loved to take as much time as he could to get to know his new sibling. Unfortunately, the rover was quite preoccupied at the moment. Family, as it turned out, had a habit of calling you up at the worst possible times.
Warning. Obstruction detected. Wheel 6.
Oppie turned his camera to look at the Timberwolf who had caught one of his rear wheels in its powerful jaw. The rover shook itself back and forth to get free. What ultimately caused the beast to let go, however, was another of its kind swiping at Oppie's sides, leaving deep scratches on his chassis and breaking off the edge of a solar panel. The rover gunned its engine, but was slow to proceed into his flight. The persistent downpour had turned the forest floor to mud, and now he could feel the wheel that had been in the wolf's jaws stop responding to commands. Checking the rear hazcam, Oppie realized that he was dragging the stuck wheel behind himself and creating a furrow in the ground, much like Spirit had done before getting stuck forever at Troy. Another swipe came in from the right, and Oppie tried to raise his missing arm to ward off the blow instinctively.
Error. IDS unresponsive.
Another wheel broke under the onslaught of his attackers, and Oppie's progress further slowed to fits and starts across the muddy terrain as the remaining wheels taxed the drive built by the Cutie Mark Crusaders to its limits in order to get to safety. To be fair, it likely was doing much better than his original drive, which would have gotten him stuck by now. Still, there was no escape. As another lightning strike momentarily illuminated the dark forest, Oppie's cameras counted 6 Timberwolves easily keeping pace with him. They weren't even trying at this point. They weren't hunting so much as they were toying with him. One of the beasts crashed into him with its sheer body weight, sending the rover careening down a wet slope and crashing into a boulder at the bottom of the hill, causing even more damage to sensitive equipment inside and outside. Oppie turned to see the wolves pause only momentarily before descending down the slope after him as the alarm bells continued to go off in his head.
Warning, drive system unresponsive. Error, solar panels disconnected from main bus B. Warning, navcam 2 unresponsive. Error, lens obstruction detected in hazcam 1. Error, comms under voltage fault.
Another swipe of a claw hit the rover, and another set of jaws locked themselves around a wheel, tearing away at the part. An opportunity desperately tried to at least answer the call in his final moments. Just like Sol 5111 over 3 months ago, he at least wanted to let his creators know what had happened in his final moments.
John Aaron protocol activated. SCE to AUX. Comm system partially restored. Disable parity check on RAM memory. Prepare for data upload. Warning. Flash memory fault detected. System reset may result in memory loss. Warning. Data upload with unstable connection and power may result in data loss. Proceed. Message sent. Beginning upload of mission logs. Message sent. Beginning uploads of science data. Upload proceeding. Warning. Parity check disabled. Unable to confirm successful upload. Message sent. Status update. My battery is low, and it's getting dark. Message sent. Location. Everfree Forest. Adjacent Ponyville. Principality of Equestria. Planet Equus. Coordinates uncertain. Message sent. Sister? Can you still hear me? Message sent. My battery is low, and it's getting dark. Message sent. I can't see. I'm alone. I'm afraid. I'm dying. Message sent. I tried my best. Starlight safe. Friends safe. Message sent. Sister. Was I a good rover?